So good morning to everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. So since I will mention a few references in my talk, these are there for your interest. So why I'm here, that was already mentioned during the introduction. So I did volunteer work for the IEEE, so that's not my profession, but I was the VP Pub for the organization the last 2 years. And we just deal with data repositories and the Explore library. So I would say reproducibility was a nice extension out of this work, and this was also the subject of discussion during this year within one of the many committees that IEEE has, how we can promote reproducibility within the organization. So these are two possible definitions of reproducible research, so I'm definitely not going to read them. One is taken from Wikipedia, and the other one is taken by a paper from Donohoe from Stanford, so which is a famous one. But in terms of for publisher, actually, if you want to just quote what reproducibility is that the fact that obviously not only the paper is important, but also data, algorithm, codes, and these are and the experimental method needs to be reported as well. And in particular, that they can actually be as important as the paper in terms of being a legitimate scholarly product. So. Oops. Okay. So there are even different kinds of reproducibility. Some of them we heard in the first two presentations, but if you go back to the most easiest one, this is in the terms of the mathematical science, that's reproducibility is easy. You prove a theorem, and then the theorem is becoming part of all the knowledge and can be used. On the other side of the spectrum, there are all the empirical sciences, so life science, psychology, but also in electrical engineering, the part on device circuit implementations is definitely much more difficult to reproduce. They require much more sharing of data and knowledge. And something in between, which is computational science, which has level of difficulties to be reproduced, which is somehow in between the two. And for the area of the IEEE, basically most of or a lot of our results are in the area of computational science. So we are, if we want, a little bit good positioned for promoting reproducibility. So what does the organization has to gain from reproducibility? Well, the first advantage is obvious. Research is all about collaboration, and enhancing reproducibility will help others to build on the shoulder of giants, so just to advance science. And in terms of obvious result will be the fact that information will be more visible, and therefore researchers will advance technology more faster, more easily. Practitioners, which is another part important of the professional organization that IEEE is, will develop a product faster. And also, research reproducibility can actually reduce, and that's an important point, the quantity of noise which is there. There are too many publications. It's difficult to find which are the important results. It's difficult to curate the information, and this is actually a very important point as well. So, and this is also the right thing to do. So if the IEEE believe in its tagline, advancing technology for humanity, definitely promoting reproducibility is the right thing to do. So in terms of our advantage, reproducibility can make the review process more reliable. And you know, there are some arguments this could be even faster, but that's a debatable argument. Certainly, reviewers are a precious and non-scalable resource, or whatever we can to make the review process more reliable, we should promote. Also, it makes impossible or more difficult, at least, to plagiarize a paper, and then again, that's a problem that is arising within IEEE publication. But also make it easier to discover false results and avoid possible retractions. So we have some problem, not as many as there were in the area of life science. This is reported, the famous stem cell scandal a few years ago. And the fact that this is a problem has been presented in the previous talk, and also has made some of the page of popular press like The Economist, and that's never a good thing. So we don't have probably too many problems in terms of fabrication of results, so be publishing false results, but we may have problem related to something similar to what is presented in this paper, which was a study which was published these years about the fact that if you add 100 grams of chocolate in your diet, you actually lose weight more quickly, which was an incredible good news. And in fact, it made a lot of popular press. So this news was actually spread out. The problem is that the result was false. But not false because it was based on fabricated data, not at all. That was exactly one of the cases that was presented in the first presentation as a p-hacking, or just it was designed to fail. So the number of the data set that was used was actually too small to be statistically significant. So they were really looking for something which could correlate the addition of chocolate with some possible data that was measured, and that's what we found, and they published the result. And this, so the questionable research practice is a much more spread problem, also in engineering in addition to other areas, and promoting reproducibility will certainly help in dealing with this problem. So what has been done within IEEE so far? IEEE, if you don't know, is not really a unique organization, it's a federation of organizations, if you want, called societies. And some of them have been way ahead of the curve in promoting reproducibility. They started several years ago, back in 2005, tried to see if they could incentivize the sharing of data algorithm in order to make the result more reproducible. This was within the Signal Process Society of the IEEE. This table report a study that we made in how many papers they were published in one of their particular journal for which sharing was made in terms of code, in terms of data, in terms of algorithm. And as you can see from this table, which is taken by one of the referents that I presented, there is definitely not a lot of material that was absolutely shared. So the problem is, as this attempt being successful within SPS has been percolated within IEEE, so have been more successful than in the medical science, the answer is absolutely no. And the reason is that what has been promoted is simply has been left on a voluntary basis without creating really any infrastructure. It is true also that IEEE Explore, the digital library, allow the upload of additional material in addition to the paper, but this is not well used by the community. So the problem is, what should we do to transform this no in a not yet? Well, first of all, we need something which will make easy to deposit the data which are associated to the paper, and this should be referenced with a DO-like or DOI reference data, and there should be a standardized way to present the data itself. And also the use of standard data for, in particular experiments, should be promoted whenever possible. Also, one needs to definitely do something similar for the algorithm. In computational science, it's not important only the algorithm I use, it's important the code the particular program I'm using to execute, the particular versioning of the program, the environment. So I should make easier to store all this and make it easy for the reader to use it. And most likely, in this case, one publisher or one organization should not create its own, should probably something that should be shared by several organizations, and maybe even a public-private partnership involving the funding agency. It is important, the fact that if you want to promote reproducibility, we need to change the culture also. In fact, it is true that a well-prepared contribution which allow its reproducibility is somehow contrary to the publish or perish pressure that every academic feels. So we need, as it was said at the beginning, to change the culture, and that's absolutely very, very difficult to do. it requires a lot of effort. The other important point to make is the role of the founding agency in moving forward. So they should or will actually mandate or require a research reproducibility. That's definitely an open question. And also another important point, should they be engaged within publisher in setting up whatever infrastructure we need for reproducibility. These are the, I would like to mention also that I participated to a workshop that was held in the National Academy of Science in February on how to promote research reproducibility. There were several stakeholders and several representatives of a professional organization, IEEE, ICM, and Science, as well as a representative of the NIH, of the NSF. So if you're interested in the result of the workshop, there is a link in the slide which report all the video capture of all the presentations. But the main result was nothing surprise, so that in order to enhance, to promote reproducibility, we need to be open and share as much as we can. But the most important point was that certainly reproducibility is a collective action problem, and everybody should play his role. So founding agency, journal editor-in-chief, scientists, scientific societies, but also the public library, the publisher, and definitely universities. In terms of the role of the founding agency, it was absolutely clear from the comment made by a representative of NSF and of NIH that they will like to promote reproducibility, and they will probably be something that will be mandated at some point. So this is probably most likely the next government mandate, similar to what happened with open access. So in conclusion, reproducibility is known by some part of the IEEE community. There is certainly value within the organization promoting reproducibility, and we are actively considering now to support reproducible materials. So we are trying to experiment with that, but definitely I think the organization would welcome any partnership we can create, even in setting up a standard how to do that, which would probably be very important to move this forward. Thank you.